As the multinational tobacco companies have encouraged more and more countries to grow tobacco, world prices have come down. In today's globalized economy, tobacco farmers must now compete not only with farmers in their own country, but with other farmers halfway around the world. Life asked both Philip Morris and British American Tobacco to comment on their leaf buying practices. Both declined our invitation for an interview. But growing tobacco doesn't just mean a poor deal for the growers. As a Ministry of Health advisor points out, it can cause huge social problems and may have contributed to the country's recent food crisis.
Anything that happens to the tobacco, poor prices on the floor means major disruption. There are people affected in terms of food security. That is why you have all these people rioting at the auction floors when the prices are too low. The tenant workers, they are busy growing the tobacco and therefore not busy growing foodstuffs, vegetables that are essential to their well-being.
As well as using up valuable agricultural land, tobacco is also a major consumer of wood. Wood is used to build drying sheds and for the production of flue-cured tobacco. According to Malawi's Department of Environmental Affairs, the result is that Malawi has one of the highest rates of deforestation in the world.
Some of the areas that have been cleared through by tobacco estates actually were actually containing very valuable tree species which may never be able to come back again. Overcutting of the trees, it has led to soil erosion. Most of the wood has been cleared.
Companies like Limbe Leaf say they recognize the downside of tobacco growing in Malawi. But what do they see as the solution?
We're good corporate citizens. We look after our own interests. We look after the interests of the nation as well. There's lots of different threats to our industry. It's not only child labor, it's deforestation, it's social responsibility programs, it's tenant farming. Our job and responsibility is to try and counter those, manage them, eliminate them. If they're real problems, solve them.
To address the specific problem of child labour, Limbe Leaf and other companies like Philip Morris are financially supporting programmes aimed at halting child labour on tobacco farms.
We have currently 2 projects in Malawi. We are trying concretely on the ground to improve the conditions of child workers or of the farmers who use child workers. We are not going to eliminate child labour now, but we are trying to launch a process that will take a few years and that we will see, and we should see, a reduction of child labour, more children attending school. That's what we are looking at.
But one of Malawi's leading rights campaigners thinks this doesn't go nearly far enough.
We should not consume anything that has been produced with unfair conditions. For example, if we know that tobacco from such an institution is produced by using child labor, then the buyers should not buy that. Even whether it is at auction floors level, if we know that a particular farm in the country or elsewhere uses child labor or uses unfair conditions to produce that particular tobacco, then say we do not buy.
Many Malawians now want to end tobacco production, seeing the costs as far outweighing the benefits. But with no substitute crop, the impact on the economy could be devastating.
We haven't found something yet that can replace tobacco today and be economically viable.
We've been growing tobacco for the last 117 years, I think, and we just can't get out like that overnight.
Ongoing development of the tobacco industry is critical. Outside tobacco, I don't think there's any equivalent cash crop.
But some critics wonder if Malawi has made any serious effort to develop alternative crops.
The Food and Agriculture Organization since 1983 has had a resolution on their books saying they will provide technical support to agricultural ministries in the world to help them diversify. But in the last 20 years, not one country has ever approached FAO to use that resolution and challenge them to provide the support. The reason is very simple. The very strong stranglehold by tobacco companies on agriculture ministries has blocked this happening because they fear that farmers would eventually start seeing that they can get a better return on their money in a diverse range of other product areas.
John Capito agrees. The global tobacco giants, he says, have helped persuade Malawians there's no viable alternative to tobacco growing.
It starts from every child. If a small little baby, you ask a small child, where does the economy of Malawi survive on? Tobacco. Tobacco is our god. Now that has gone in your head for too long. And who is running tobacco? It's not government. It is a tobacco industry. So you worship them. They decide where we should go. They tell us what we should do. Malawi can still survive irrespective of whether it grows tobacco or it does not.
In Geneva in May 2003, 192 nations approved a World Health Organization treaty aimed at controlling global consumption of tobacco.
The Framework Convention on Tobacco Control is WHO's first entry into using hard law or treaties to control a major public health problem. We know that with 4.9 million deaths from tobacco worldwide in about 1.2 billion smokers, tobacco constitutes one of the gravest threats to public health. We have often heard the argument that as the rest of the world reduces consumption, a country like Malawi will become increasingly more impoverished. The dependence that they have on tobacco has certainly not brought them wealth. The treaty may allow Malawi to seek additional financial resources to start doing the research required to reduce their dependence on tobacco. We are not saying people should switch tomorrow out of tobacco. We're saying let's see demand reduction happen and let's make sure that countries start looking at sustainable livelihoods for their people.
It's a sentiment shared by many in Malawi itself.
There's no hope in relying on tobacco. They should stop using child labor. They should stop offering unfair treatment. I only hope that one day, one time, we'll have a replacement, because if we have a replacement of this tobacco business, then we can forget about all these concerns.